Before we can draw, paint, or pretty much do anything in Manga Studio, we need to take that first important step and create a new page to draw on. So let's do it. Coming up to the main menu, we can either select File, New, or come over to the command bar and press the New Page button. And this brings up the New Page dialog box. Now, for this course, I'm going to be focusing on the tools and options that are common among both Manga Studio 5 and Manga Studio 5 EX. So, if you are a 5EX user and you happen to be noticing there are a few extra options that aren't on this screen, just know that what I cover here will work in your version of the program as well. So, let's start from the top. I'll enter in my file name, and we'll be personal. My new page. You can add spaces if you want. And from here, we can just select from a list of presets by clicking the preset drop-down list and choosing from here. What we're going to do in this exercise is actually create our own preset. And in the process, we're going to create a new page that is similar to the type of page that most Western comic book artists like to use, which is a canvas of 11 inches by 17 inches and a print guide of 10 inches by 15 inches. So let's set up our canvas. We have the width already at 11 inches. We just need to change the height. So I can either enter the value manually by clicking and dragging, then entering it, or I'm going to come over here to the arrow key and either use the slider, or in this case, I'm just going to use the arrow key to bring it up to 17 inches. Next, I choose the resolution. The technical term is the number of dots that will fit within a 1-inch line. What it means to you is the quality of the lines that you draw. So as an example, I created two exact lines. One was created at 72 dpi, one was created at 1200 dpi. And you can see the difference in quality between the low resolution line and the high resolution line. If you're planning on creating a comic for print, you definitely want to be higher resolution. And I highly suggest that you go no lower than 300 dpi when creating your page. Most printers print at least 300 dpi, and if you go any lower, the lines will be blurry, your colors will be muddier, and you just generally will not be happy with the final result. So the higher the resolution, the better. With that said, keep in mind the strength of your computer. I've worked on machines where I tried working at 1200 dpi, and my computer could not keep up with it. So try different resolutions and see what works best for your personal taste, what feels comfortable, and the strength of your machine. Just go no lower than 300 dpi if you're planning on saving this for print. So let's enter in our resolution. I happen to like working at 400 dpi, so I've already entered in that value, but you can either enter a different value in manually or click this arrow key and choose from the preset drop-down list here. Next, I set my basic expression color, or how colors will be seen on every layer that I create on the canvas by default. Right now it's set to color, so all colors will be shown. I can click the drop-down list and choose to have grayscale, which is just all grays, or monochrome, which is just black and white. Incidentally, I can choose with both grays and monochrome to have only black or dark grays shown, white or light grays only, or both. I like to use both if I'm using this option. Additionally, I can set the initial dot size for screen tones if I choose to use screen tones in my work later on. I'm going to go back to color because I want to work in color. I can change the paper color. Right now it's set to white, but if I click this box here, it brings up your operating system's color picker, and from here, I can just pick whatever color I want from the rainbow. So if I want like a bright green canvas, I am totally able to do that. I don't, so I'm just going to hit cancel. And if I don't want a background, I just uncheck it, and I have a transparent background, which will be helpful if I wanted to create a transparent GIF or PNG file later on. I'm going to turn that back on. And next, I'm going to set up the print guide. And Manga Studio calls it Manga Draft Settings. So I'll check that, and this brings up our print guide. Now, if you're unfamiliar with print guides, this is something like if you are creating a page that is going to be part of a comic book and you're going to be sending this off to the printer, print companies use this print guide to take your page and properly format it to its final comic book form. And the print guide is broken down into 3 parts. The trim, or what Manga Studio calls the finish, and this is going to be the eventual physical edge of the page, the safe area, or what Manga Studio calls the basic frame, and the bleed. Now, the safe area is an idea to keep any important artwork and text, because when this is printed off, there's no guarantee that what you have in this area will be in the final product. So your safe area is like your rule of thumb, like, okay, this is where I should keep all my important art and dialogue. The bleed is the margin of error, and this is helpful if you create artwork that you want to go right to the edge of the paper. Because trimming is not an exact science, sometimes there are small changes here and there in the cutting process. The bleed helps to prevent potential little slivers of white from showing up in a piece that you want to have just go right to the physical edge. So when you work on your page, you're going to draw up to at least the bleed. You can go beyond, but make sure that you have no important artwork in this general area because there's no guarantee that it's going to be there in the final product. So let's add our print guide. Typically with American/Western comics, the print guide is set to 10 inches by 15 inches, a safe area of 9 inches by 14 inches, and a bleed area of 0.25 inches. So I will manually enter in 10, tab down, 15, tab down, 0.2. I'll actually do this one manually. And this one, 9 and 14. That looks good. But you happen to notice that once I changed the print guide, the canvas adjusted accordingly. And this is a interesting little quirk with Manga Studio where it will adjust the canvas to fit the print guide that you are creating. Now, technically, I could leave it just as it is. If I print it out on 11 by 17 sheet of paper, it'll print just fine. But if I want to have that extra space as I'm working just for notes or whatnot, I will usually change this back to 11 inches by 17. So I will do that right now. 11 by 17. And there we go. By the way, I've been creating this whole thing in inches, but if you're more familiar or more comfortable working in metric, come over here to unit, and these are your units of measurement. Right now it's inches, but you can use centimeters, millimeters, or pixels, or points, whatever you need for the particular page you're working on. I like inches, so I'm going to stick with inches. And from here, I can actually add one more thing. Checking this checkbox, I can add a framing template. And it's just like a preset list of frames that Manga Studio provides. If I click on the button here, you can see a list of all the presets. All I would do is select the one that I want, like this one, and press OK. And now what'll happen is when this page is created, these two frames will be within the safe area of the comic. If I didn't have a print guide, these frames will go right to the edge of the canvas. I don't really want a template, so I'm just going to uncheck that. But my page is pretty much all set to go. All I have to do is press OK, and I have a new page. But what if I want to use this again? And I will want to use this again. And I don't necessarily want to go through this process of changing these settings. Well, why not just make a preset out of it? So I'm going to click the Save button here next to the preset drop-down list and enter in a name. I'll call it US Comic. And I can include what I want with this preset. Resolution, paper color, any framing templates, and my basic expression color. I'm happy with just saving the resolution. So I just press OK. And now it's on my preset list. I can just select that instead of going through this whole process every time. And if I decide I don't want that anymore, I just select the one and press the trash icon. But I'm pretty much set to go. All I need to do now, press OK, and there's my brand new page to work on. Now, before I wrap things up, I'm going to come back to the new page dialog box and point out one more thing. Now, up here, you see this option called Use of Work. And as I've been creating this canvas, I was using the All Settings option. So, as you can expect, it has all the settings available to create a new page. But we have these two other quick start options, Illustration and Comic. Illustration creates a basic canvas. There is no print guide. If you need something where you just need a canvas to draw and paint on, you can't go wrong with just using this option. You can change your canvas, resolution, expression color, paper color, and a framing template if you want. And it has its own list of presets, separate from all settings, like so. And finally, there's Comic. And Comic creates a print guide with a canvas to fit around it. It works very similar to all settings, but there are significant limitations to keep in mind. You can only use millimeters. You have a bleed width of only 3 millimeters or 5 millimeters, a resolution of 600 or 350 dpi, though I've also seen like 600 and 1200. I guess it depends on your computer. And this is the important thing. You can adjust the trim size however you want, but the safe area remains the same. And more importantly, you cannot change the canvas at all. It just wraps to fit whatever you set for your trim. So this is great for a quick start. Same thing with the illustration. But if you're like me and you like to have that ability to really tweak the settings for your page the way you want them, I would suggest going the way that I like to work and just use all settings. But no matter which way you create your canvas, the important part is done. We now have a canvas to create our comic on.